Welcome everybody, my name is Michael or Kubera, and today we are discussing what it would take for Bitcoin to hit the price of $100,000. Let's refresh. Currently it is above 15,682 to be precise. The market cap is at $291 billion with a total 24-hour volume of 28.8 billion. So what would the market cap need to be? What would the volumes need to be? How much Bitcoin would need to be purchased in order to sustain a $100,000 price point? Because it's one thing to get to $100,000, which there's more and more articles coming out and stating that we'll arrive at $100,000. But what is necessary to get there? So let's roll the intro. So one of the fundamental basics of Bitcoin is that as each block is mined, we are getting closer and closer to the end, which is 21 million Bitcoin. Currently, there are 18,538,368 Bitcoin in circulation. The rewards get halved in the Bitcoin halving every 4 years. We already went through that this year. The difficulties rise, so there should be theoretically less miners. But miners are very, very important for the whole ecosystem. We're approaching 21 million, and every single day, technically, Bitcoin should be growing in terms of its value. Now, the actual price sometimes may not correlate with the value. Sometimes it may be underpriced. Sometimes it may be overpriced. In 2017 and 2018, a lot of people refer to this period as the bubble because it just grew way too rapidly. Markets weren't ready for adoption. A lot of institutional investors were scared by this. And due to this rapid growth over here, it just fell apart. But now we see that it's been through an interesting 2 years. And in 2020, it's been steadily growing. It's not like a giant arrow like it was in 2017, 2018. It did jump up recently, but there was a lot of good influential events that actually helped move Bitcoin. It wasn't just a lot of hype. Of course, there's still hype and FOMO every single time it rises by a few $100s. Now this hype might come out because we're close to $20,000, the all-time high. But there's a lot of people who are saying, hey, we're going to hit $100,000. So it is very realistic. Just looking at the past, a lot of people said Bitcoin will die. I don't think it's going to die. We're currently in a bullish market. It could very well happen that we surpass the all-time high and hit $21,000, $25,000, maybe even $30,000. But every single $1,000 that it continues to go up, there's more and more people who may have lost money from 2018 and they're currently hodling, or they're early investors who are hodling for a better price. Maybe they didn't want to sell at $20,000, but $25,000 is their good price. Maybe they're starting a family. Maybe they want to buy their dream car, their dream house. Maybe they're new investors from 2019, 2020. They got in when Bitcoin was at $4,000 after the Black Swan event earlier this year, and they just want to cash out. They want to take their profit. So before we get to $100,000, there would be a lot of people just like already with Bitcoin. Before you even got to $1,000, here was 300, here was rising for $1,000. A lot of people sold Bitcoin back then because they got Bitcoin maybe at $1. And for them, it was extreme. These were absurd gains. They never expected it to get to $20,000. Before we'd hit $100,000, a lot of people would have sold already. All we have to do is type in $100,000 Bitcoin, and we see $100,000 Bitcoin. S2F, author, confident with his model, suggests it would happen by 2021. Macro analysis predicts Bitcoin has begun to rally towards 100,000. Government grammar error there, might take action if Bitcoin price goes above $100,000. This is actually a good point. So there will be a lot of regulation as more institutions, as more governments get on board with it. They want to tax it. And what's interesting, let me see this article. U.S. law firm says IRS is coming after Coinbase users who evade taxes. So the IRS is definitely getting interested. Once an IRS investigation or audit is open, it's too late to make amends, warn tax lawyers. So there's a lot of parties that would be super, super happy about this if we hit $100,000. There was an article earlier that came out that next month we're going to hit $100,000. Before we'd hit $100,000, a lot of events would have to happen. So $90 million daily. What would it mean to sustain a Bitcoin price at $100,000? The price of Bitcoin can reach $100,000 and remain stable if $90 million worth of Bitcoin is absorbed every single day. Now, you look at this, $90 million worth of Bitcoin, you go back to the charts, and here we see a 24-hour volume of 28. This isn't million, this is billion. So What is it talking about? We already surpassed that. Well, it's not talking about the volume, actually. What it's talking about is miners. Is $90 million inflow into Bitcoin on a daily basis realistic? After the 2020 halving, miners can generate up to 900 Bitcoin every single day. If the price of Bitcoin reaches 100,000, 900 Bitcoin will be equivalent to $90 million. Data from ByteTree shows miners sold all the Bitcoin that they mined in the past week, likely to cover operational costs. Given that miners typically sell what they mine on a regular basis, the assumption that the selling pressure on Bitcoin may reach $90 million when Bitcoin hits $100,000 is reasonable. At $100,000 per Bitcoin, the market has to absorb a miner supply of $90 million daily. Assuming that there are 10 million people worldwide buying Bitcoin on a regular basis, it would cost them $9 each daily to sustain those price levels. Data suggests otherwise, though. Hodlers throughout the past 3 all-time highs have not been selling in significant portions. 60% of the Bitcoin has not been moved for more than 2 years. Even if that were to remain true, the long-time supply of Bitcoin will eventually equal the mining new supply. Hodlers have been consistently accumulating Bitcoin ever since the price of Bitcoin flash crashed to $3,600. In the last 8 weeks leading up to the halving, hodlers added to their positions with expectations of a higher Bitcoin price. So in order to hit $100,000, we would have to have a market capitalization of $2.1 trillion. So we go back and we see that it's currently at 290 billion. So the most we've ever seen, the market cap of all the cryptocurrencies, we haven't even hit $1 trillion. The maximum we've ever been, the total market cap of all the cryptocurrencies combined, 828 billion, 537 million, 370,000. So it's still a little bit away from $1 trillion. It was very, very close. It was rapidly rising. Total market capitalization, excluding Bitcoin, around $544 billion. With Bitcoin's dominance, it would probably fall from 64%. Maybe it would be closer to 50%. Who knows what would it take for all of the cryptocurrencies? Because if Bitcoin itself was at 2.1 trillion, all the cryptocurrencies might be anywhere from $3 trillion to 5-6 trillion, maybe even $7 trillion. So that is a lot that we're talking about. So $2.1 trillion with just Bitcoin alone, that is around 25% of the market cap of gold. In other words, the perception of Bitcoin as an established store of value has to increase, and institutional retail futures and options market activity will have to reach new levels. So this is a huge amount. Now, a lot of institutional investors are getting on board and they're saying Bitcoin is a better investment than gold, and they're really excited. But in order to get to 25% of the world's gold supply, it's still a long way to get there. Will it happen? Maybe one day in the future, maybe even in the near future, near as in the next few years, it might happen. We've already seen some crazy events in 2020. A lot of people are excited for 2021. I think we might definitely hit $25,000, $30,000 even, but we need to just chill out, relax. It's going to take trillions of dollars in order for us to rise. It's better if we arrive there in a few years, because more people, we have to look at this long term. Do we want Bitcoin to continue rising from $100,000 to $200,000 to $1 million eventually? If so, we can't have these bubble fantasies where we suddenly rise up very quickly, because then a lot of people would get scared off by it. They're going to call it a big, big bubble again. It's going to burst. Institutional investors would get scared. If it takes a few years to get there and there's a slow rise and there's still market cycles, there's corrections, people lose money. It's kind of like the normal stock market. In the short run, there's some pretty crazy events. In the long run, it's generally going up in the right direction. It's fighting inflation. Then slowly you'll have millions and millions of more people going into it. Now, it's always interesting, as I like to refer to this graphic, putting the world's money into perspective, how much Bitcoin is at. And we see that Bitcoin around here, it was $112 billion. So we've certainly rise. Jeff Bezos also rised into $200 billion territories. All the cryptocurrencies here were 200 billion. Now we're approaching 500 billion. Amazon certainly rise, Apple rise. But all of the USD in circulation, that also rise as well. But back then it was this was in 2018, $1.5 trillion. The gold market cap was 7.8 trillion. Physical money all around the world was $34.4 trillion, stock market $67.5 trillion, and all the money of the world, $86.5 trillion. All money meaning money in any form, including bank or other deposits, as well as notes and coins. So you combine all of this stuff in the world, there's hundreds of trillions of dollars of value. But first we need to reach 1 trillion. With just the cryptocurrencies. Then we can think about $1 trillion market cap with Bitcoin, and then we have to get to 2.1, so it's going to take a while. That is that. Thanks for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and share, and we shall see you guys.